Ever climbed a mountain, ever caught a fish, ever looked to the stars and made a wish, ever shot a bow and arrow in the dead of night, ever read a map, ever flew a kite, ever made a fire, ever sang a song, ever tried to run a marathon, ever put yourself to the test. Do your best. Do your best. Nice. I think that was somewhat better than last time, but I
you got the note at the end.
I did. I got the note. Yeah, last time I was like, ooh. But here we go. Spooky episode.
Episode spook.
Episode
Trois.
3.
Yeah.
But actually, very spooky number 3.
Is it?
Isn't it? I think 3 is like one of those ones. It's like
It's not the magic number.
It's not 666. Is it the magic number? 3 is a magic number. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It is. We've got like the Holy Trinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? Awkward relationship. 3.
The thruple.
The thruple. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
is it triangle?
Probably spooky.
It's triangular relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, that's spooky. Wait, how many points is that?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Triangle.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you have to have 3 points to be a triangle.
3 prongs on the devil's trident. Is it?
There?
Or is there 4?
Neptune.
I'm getting confused now, really.
Neptune, he's got 3, or has he got more of like a tong? An evil. Have you seen an evil?
Evil? What's that?
That's only got 2 prongs.
Oh, is it?
It's like a farming.
it sounds like it's going to be.
It's got a farming implement. It does look.
Wow.
Evil. I think it's called like an eval.
Is it spelled like medieval?
I think so.
Is that why it's called that? It's like the period where all the Frankenstein farmers with their pitchforks.
It looks
like,
bad.
Medieval.
Yeah, it looks bad. It looks like the kind of thing that you'd move hay with.
Right. Okay. Yes. I think I've actually tried to do that once.
Yeah. What with an evil?
Yeah, not with. I don't know what it was. It was some sort of pitchfork. I didn't move it to great success.
The pitchfork isn't that evil.
No.
Although it has always been used for people.
Well, it's technically to ward off evil, but then the peasants are always depicted as being kind of like worse.
They always seem like they're being a bit evil.
They're worse,
really.
aren't they?
Well, people in mass are that becomes
en
en
That's
masse,
interesting, isn't it?
That becomes evil. Like one person, fine. 30.
Yeah. The
get bad.
The lynch mob with pitchforks are never the nice guys.
The David Lynch mob, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could get like one angry guy.
Yeah.
Fine.
One guy with a pitchfork is just a farmer defending himself.
That's true, yeah.
10 people with a pitchfork is like, that's a fucking...
terrifying.
That's a cult.
Yeah.
They're coming for your castle.
3 people with pitchforks.
Yeah.
That's terrifying too.
I can imagine that being the real reason why Nicolas Cage had to leave his castle in like Scotland or whatever.
Yeah.
That actually the townsfolk just waiting outside with pitchforks and fucking burning
maybe.
things. There's like I can't do a Scottish accent, but just that they'd heard there was a man who had many crows who lived high in that.
He'd buy them all beers.
He would. He probably would actually. I wonder if he's still in Bath.
I'd love to have been there.
Yeah. Oh, in the Bath. Yeah. So he was there on
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah. I feel like in my head there actually is a documentary about that moment, but I think it's just something that was spoken about with Petros from the Caged In podcast.
Oh yes, yeah, our brethren.
We talked about how wonderful it would be to have that depicted in some sort of cinema.
Oh man, I really I miss Petros.
I miss him too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think he's doing well. He's got a new podcast now.
Yeah, has he? Oh, what?
Getting Defoe You.
Oh, actually, it's out. I
think it's out.
Oh shit, I've got to listen to it.
I think he does it. Yeah.
Fuck! Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Defoe has always been my favourite actor.
Yeah.
He's in that new Yorgos Lanthimos.
You had an idea once about Defoe.
I did. That was way back in the day. Hugging Defoe. I was going to make a documentary where I went through each one of his movies, kind of trying to describe my feelings about them, like in a similar backdrop. So if it's like a movie about motorbikes, I'd go to a motorcyclist place or something. Right. And then I was going to do every single movie, talk about his life, and go like a full deep dive into Defoe, and then finally at the end, actually go and give him a hug.
Oh man, I mean
it's pretty wholesome, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah,
as
I think he'd love that as well. I don't know him, but he seems like a real lovely dude.
He does have a really interesting past as well, like lots of avant-garde theatre and weird stuff that he used to do.
Yeah.
For such a mainstream actor, like he was pretty fucking out there.
Have there been any spooky movies?
What horror films?
Yeah.
Antichrist. That's a spooky one.
Of course.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
And he doesn't even use his kind of spooky face in that.
Yeah.
He doesn't do the full Defoe in that. But that's fucking scary stuff. Lots of bludgeoning going on in that movie. Lots of scissors and flesh and spooky witches in the forest and things. Very spooky stuff. Speaking of spooky things, I was reading the other day. I read so few bits of news in. You'll have to forgive me.
I don't know
in
anything.
preparation, there was a woman the other day. This was a real headline. It was "Woman from America cries when entering UK supermarket." So she was from California. She moved down to Bolton. That's such an extreme. She's gone to such a fucking extreme.
Well,
There
we
were
don't
so
know
many other
where in
places.
California. In my head, she's in the California I see. There's people rollerblading.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's Barbie, California. You know, but
Exactly. But instead
it's
she's
what
got...
happened to Barbie. What happened to her?
Yeah, exactly. So she goes straight to Bolton.
Yeah.
And
Barbie going from plastic to America is like Californian going to Bolton.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so she goes into the supermarket and she just starts fucking bawling.
Well, because
How bad the whole situation is.
She
It's
can't
just
believe
grim. I think she's particularly upset about the fact there's like a lack of products going on that she recognises.
wow.
It's kind of screams at the very heart of like, to the very heart of what it is that Americans feel about things, isn't it?
Yeah, like the consumerism, I guess. But it also reminds me of that thing you told me about with the Japanese girls in Paris.
Yes, exactly.
Not necessarily girls, but I think it was mainly Japanese girls, like that, thinking that Paris would be this specific thing.
This magical dreamland.
with just like lovely, just
and
Parisian
mimes just like
Yeah,
fucking going everywhere,
yeah.
and people eating baguettes and shit.
Yeah, although people are eating baguettes,
And there
it's-
probably is a mime somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably good. The best ones probably.
But actually, you know, when you enter, it's just like smog and like
It's brutal,
There's
really.
a smell of like rotting flesh in the air.
It is really brutal. Paris
Yeah,
is one
people
of
shoving into you like it's London.
It kind of got me.
Yeah,
it
you
freaked
can
me
only
out.
buy little hot dogs.
Yeah.
It's just like overall like bad vibes. Although, you know, I'm sure there's also some.
I mean,
pretty
we had
beautiful-
fun there. We've been to
Yeah.
Paris together.
Yeah, well, I know,
not just me.
It was a good, yeah, the secret getaway trip.
Yeah.
But no, you know, like when you watch that movie, that dodgy old Woody, I can't even fucking say it, dodgy old Woody Allen,
Woody Allen's bad.
Wild Willie's Midnight in Paris.
Right,
I'm
I
like,
haven't
wow,
seen
this is so picturesque and beautiful.
Oh, right.
I didn't see any of that Paris.
Yeah,
when I
no,
was there.
exactly. No, there was nothing I saw from like the Team America Paris.
Yeah, it's a bit like if I took like little picturesque shots of like my ankles and stuff. I'd probably look like a saucy young man. If you look at the full picture, it's like, what the fuck is that? Anyway,
So this woman has that.
yeah, what? Yes,
Paris syndrome.
yeah. So she had that, but there was more of an article, but it was so poorly put together, and it was only referencing like different TikToks. I was like, I can't be doing with this. But I just thought it was funny that we lived in a day and age where that made a headline.
Yeah, thank God.
The other funny thing is, you see that beer you're drinking now.
Tsingtao.
It's not actually a Tsingtao.
Oh, it's Singer.
It's Singer, but it was supposed to be a Tsingtao that I was going to buy you.
Oh, that's why I thought I was drinking it.
Thank you. Well, that's a fucking magic trick straight up. But you know the reason why, and it would be exactly this point of the show where you've already taken a few sips. I was about to tell you that someone had pissed in that Tsingtao, and you were going to say,
What the fuck?
and I was going to go, well, here we go. And I was going to tell you a story about how in China there has recently been a serious event where somebody broke into the Tsingtao factory.
Oh, no.
And somebody just started straight up pissing into the vat of. He was wearing a traffic cone on his head.
That's
like
great.
Like a mad orange wizard with like some like Chinese characters on it, I think. And he was just pissing wildly, like a long like full piss into the vat of beer.
A long full piss.
Yeah, exactly. Just adding to the overall kind of liquid. And the next day they found out about it, and the Tsingtao company were like, we know who it was, but it wasn't an employee, which is kind of puzzling. It's like, what do you mean? It sounds like an inside job.
Yeah, well, they've got like cameras everywhere.
But to get into the vats as well, in the first place, you kind of like, you know, it's
Maybe a cousin of someone.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Maybe just some parkour dudes just pissing in vats.
Yeah, maybe like a manager's son nicked the keys.
It could be,
something
yeah.
like that.
And but anyway, either way, they're like, we found the culprit and we destroyed like all the vats, so there's no way that any of that piss is going out. But it didn't affect the stock exchange, So all of a sudden, Tsingtao's stocks just plummet to the ground. And it took till like for several days later, after people kind of realised that the beer probably wasn't contaminated, for them to sort of go back again. Anyway, so today I go to all the supermarkets, right, looking to buy you a Tsingtao for this exact moment. Nobody's selling Tsingtao anymore.
What?
That piss in the vat has fucking stopped it. People aren't selling Tsingtao anymore. I swear to you, it was in both Tesco and it was in Co-op, and now it's nowhere.
That's wild.
I know. One man's piss can ruin an entire fucking... He's literally, you know...
I'm proud of him.
I know.
I'm proud of that kind of guerrilla warfare.
I know.
That's the kind of vandalism that I like.
Yeah, I know.
Like a man with a cone on his head pissing into a vat of beer, probably for a laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Or unless he was trying to get revenge for
I
something.
do. I love the beer though as well. So
I know,
I'd
it's
actually
good.
rather have a beer than have that happen. But to be honest,
I know. But yeah, who knows? Was it revenge for some terrible event that had been caused by Tsingtao? Was he an ex-employee?
but who's like the? That's a good point. They said he doesn't work here, but they didn't say he didn't. He
Yeah,
worked
in
here
the past.
yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work here now.
Now Traffic Code Man's back.
Yeah.
He's back with a vengeance.
I don't think it can be that much of a revenge thing because he's got to be. You've got to be putting that revenge on. I mean, who really gets hurt
Yeah.
when there's piss in the Tsingtao?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's basically like homeopathic medicine, isn't it? You've got one whole vat of like a swimming pool size vat of water.
Yeah.
You put one paracetamol in it. Basically, you're not going to taste or get any of that paracetamol from
course
that
not.
amount.
But now every swig feels like there's 17
It kind of feels
paracetamol
to
in.
you like there's piss in it when
I'm not
someone
sure I
tells
can
you
drink
that.
Tsingtao anymore. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Like people did, like the idea of it is now like that's it.
I think they've severely affected. I think it's really done its job, at least recently. Because when the stocks dropped, I reckon this is a sort of Tsingtao piss conspiracy, really. But maybe that's what we should call this episode.
Yeah.
But I can't work out why I can't buy it anywhere now. It can only be
It's
now.
the piss.
It's got to be the piss. I also just thought then, a sort of strange thought, that what if it wasn't actually a traffic cone he was wearing? It was actually a wizard's hat, and he actually magicked his way into the building just to piss into the vat, which would be a very Halloweeny thing to happen at this time of year. But
Yes.
knowing how the Chinese deal with most problems, i.e., like sort of death vans and like,
Yeah.
I hope that he's dealt with in a way that isn't too bad.
Yeah, who knows how they'll deal with them.
Yeah.
But they might not even know who it actually is really. They might just be saying that they know. They've got to say that they know.
And maybe if he really does have like piss magic powers, he can slip his way out of the situation.
If it was a drunk guy
Yeah.
who just happened upon an open door and thought this is a brilliant idea, there's something I really like about it. I'm not saying I would piss in a vat of beer.
No.
In fact, I wouldn't.
No.
I don't think even if I was. Yeah, I see what you mean. It must be a revenge act
Yeah.
for someone.
Unless he was actually a holy man, like a holy wizard.
Yeah.
And he thought he was blessing everybody who would consume it in some way. And this
Yeah,
was like,
a drunken monk.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe he was like the homeopathic medicine. He was trying to dispel his sacred venom into the people.
Yeah,
With the beer.
maybe.
Probably not. Probably
Yeah,
not.
probably. I mean, I think it's probably more likely that his cousin or something like that drinks Tsingtao, like that. They're out there. He's been drinking heavy with his cousin, and they're like knocking back beers, and his cousin's got some Tsingtao on, and like he's drinking Tsingtao all night. His cousin, and he's going like, "Hey, do you want one of these lovely beers?" You know, and he's going, I'm sticking on the Tsingtao. No worries. I'm sticking
Yeah.
on the Tsingtao. And he's like, no, fine.
Yeah.
Fine, stay on the Tsingtao, no problem. And then, like, maybe something happens. Maybe his girlfriend, or maybe he's maybe his cousin starts hitting on his girlfriend or something. And he can't, all he can see is the
It's so
Tsingtao.
specific.
And it's just this Tsingtao that he's
Yeah.
looking at.
So he's like Googling like Tsingtao factory.
Yeah, and he's thinking, I know what I'll do. I know how I'll get back to his cousin's way too big for him to like actually say anything to or fight, you know. But he's thinking, I know what I'll do. I'll piss in the Tsingtao brewery.
Yeah.
And then soon enough, buddy, you'll be drinking my piss.
Yeah, I think it is definitely that sounds
That's it.
possible. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, for sure. There's always that thing about Einstein's piss. Were you ever told that as a kid, that every glass of water that you drink at some point went through Albert Einstein?
I mean,
But
yeah, I guess so.
That's clearly not possible.
People always
is it?
said like, yeah, like every.
they're saying
oh,
that there
that
was
water
one-
that's been through at least 7 people.
But they're saying what one molecule from that definitely went through Albert
What does that
Einstein.
mean? What, like his piss was genius too? What we?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, great,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
great. Also, by that account, Hitler too. So
Yeah, exactly. It's so that we choose someone that we prefer to have their piss within us, I guess.
yeah, well, why don't you choose all the people you wouldn't prefer because it's been through them as well?
I feel like we've gone down such a pissy route at this point. We got to get back to Halloween, spooky times.
Yeah, it's Halloween coming up. You got any plans?
I don't have any plans. I'm hoping maybe to carve a pumpkin. Last year was very calm. Do you remember? It was just calm. We carved the pumpkin. We put it on like a little bridge. We put candle in it.
Oh yeah, it was nice actually.
was
we
really
left
nice.
them on. We left them on Newland Bridge.
Yeah, I think I watched a horror film. I think we put on a horror film at some
Yeah,
point.
I quite enjoyed
It was
that.
just
Halloween's
very-
big for you. You're a real big Halloween dude.
Yeah, and we've spent Halloweens together where I've been like full on in like a woman's dress with like a balaclava on and
Yeah.
pillowcase.
Yeah, pillowcase with just a hole in it.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty sexual.
Yeah,
to be honest.
like when you were
It
flipping
wasn't.
burgers, I'm just like
Yeah.
dancing to the Misfits and like
Yeah, that was actually one of my favourites.
It was actually one of the best.
Well, we
ones.
have plenty of pumpkin too.
We do have the pumpkins, which is beautiful. This is
You
a great.
show this one,
Yeah,
because
this is actually fucking beautiful.
This is a good
So to
one.
describe it to the podcast audience, it's kind of like a normal pumpkin, except it's covered in sort of
boils,
humorous
almost.
boils.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but it
knobbly.
really does look super gnarly and cool.
It's really knobbly.
I don't know what's given it. It's I don't know if it's a special breed of.
Yeah, it's
Majestic.
very knobbly type pumpkin. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of pumpkin thing that's going on. But anyway, on the subject.
So
of
you
Halloween-
could carve this one.
Oh yes, really?
Well, would you want to carve this one?
Are you sure? But it looks too beautiful to carve.
This one won't be eaten.
Yeah, I felt like for a moment that we were on a cooking show. I just had that kind of. And would you like? Oh yes, perhaps I'll take a
Yeah.
slice out of this.
I'm not gonna eat this knobbly bastard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I would love to.
Also, it's kind of too big. I feel like when you get like a pumpkin and it's massive, I feel like they're not for eating somehow.
No, I know. Yeah, that's the same with rabbits, right? This brings us back to Kim Jong Un, right?
Yeah, you don't want to eat the huge ones.
And Kim Jong Un just immediately eats that big rabbit.
Yeah.
That was not for eating,
yeah,
Kim.
it's like, you know how people grow like a huge marrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I always
yeah.
feel like,
What's that for then?
well, let's just have a little marrow.
You're supposed to worship it in the village hall, just like
Yeah,
lighting the candles. Like,
yeah. I tell you what, don't you think that a tiny watermelon, say a couple of inches, maybe an
cube,
inch,
like a cube watermelon.
imagine how tasty that fucking watermelon would be. So
Yeah.
it goes through the same amount of time of becoming. Imagine all of the taste of a huge watermelon
Yeah.
in an inch watermelon.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that's. Do you see what I mean about? I feel like there's more flavour in the small. Imagine an olive that
yeah.
was the size of a basketball.
You're basically saying
it would be watery.
You don't think an old man would taste very good to eat, is what you're saying.
It's watery.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
a big man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, he's chewy as well, isn't he? Because he's lived for a long time. I don't
Yeah.
mean he's a Chewbacca.
I don't
He's a
necessarily
Chewie.
mean old. I just mean like vast and full of water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
like all of my enemies.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah. Like a
full
tiny.
full of tainted piss beer.
So yeah, you turn this one into whatever you want.
Yeah, fantastic. I certainly will. I'm
The
not.
yellow one, I think, will get a carving as well, and then the other ones. This one's my favourite.
Oh, nice.
That
yeah.
to me looks like
This-
a real Halloween.
What's being described here is just a very very kind of perfect pale.
It's a pale orange, medium-sized pumpkin.
That's the
Yeah.
best it gets.
Yeah.
On the dark subject of Halloween, I did start to read about the Fiji mermaid.
Cool.
And I definitely heard of the Fiji mermaid before, but basically recently they found one of these mermaids, and they did some scans on it, some sort of, to see what was inside of it. And I thought that kind of cued into what we were talking about a few episodes ago with the Mexican aliens, where they were trying to work out, were they made of cake, were they real aliens, were they once people, were they mummies? So I thought it was an interesting subject. So I started to go into like working out what the Fiji mermaid was.
Yeah.
So basically, in like 1822, I think it was somewhere outside Cape Town. We've got this this British captain. He's called Captain. I've written it on my hand. Eads, Samuel Eads.
How's that spelled?
Eades.
Nice.
The SS. Just keep adding S's. And basically, so Samuel Leeds is like he's an aging sea captain. He's not doing too well. I don't know what his boat's doing. I don't think it's the fish trawling vessel.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but he's going around and he sees a Japanese fishing boat, and they're not doing well. They're sinking. The boat is sinking. So he's like, holy shit, and saves all of these Japanese fishermen who are quite grateful. But most importantly, they want to do some trading. So he ends up trading stuff with them, and then eventually he notices they've been a bit sort of like odd about something in the back that they've got, and he's like, all right, well, no, we've done our trading, but what is it? You've got some other stuff. I want to see the good stuff. And they're like, no, I don't think you want to see that. Captain Samuel Eads, I don't think you want to see this. The secret stuff we've got in the back. And he's like, show me what you've got in the
Obviously,
back.
everyone's.
So they open up this box, and inside is the shriveled body of a mermaid. Wow. And he's like, holy fucking shit. Wow. And it sort of sees, huge dollar signs kind of appear in his eyes, and he's like, okay, I want this. How much are you asking for? And they're basically like, it's not really for sale. But of course, he's not thinking at this point, was it the curse of this dead corpse mermaid that just sunk their ship? He's just thinking, I want it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, how much? And they're like, well, do you have like $300? Which in today's money would be like something insane. It would be like, I don't know, 6,000 or something like that.
Okay.
And he doesn't.
Doesn't seem that much, but yeah.
Well, I guess not. It's
For
not
a
that
mermaid.
insane. Yeah, for a mermaid. Yeah. So he's like, look, I don't actually have that money on me though. Like, I don't know how I'd get that. And they're like, well, how about you just give us your boat? So he ends up giving them his whole fishing boat, or whatever it was, some kind of boat, merchant vessel, and they just drop him off. And somehow him and his mermaid merrily make their way to London, where he and his very young son decide to exhibit it in a cafe, and it becomes like the talk of London, this like shriveled dead mermaid that's in the window. Right. And it's called something like Turf's Cafe or something, and everyone, not trans-exclusionary radical feminist cafe, I don't think it was back then.
I don't think they probably had them then.
But it was called Turf's Cafe, I think. And anyway, people would pay like a penny or whatever to get in and see the mermaid.
Yeah.
And it was like the talk of the town. And until finally, I think this priest came and saw it, and he was so struck by how grotesque and fucked up the mermaid was. He was like, "This is kind of frightening, and the world sort of needs to know about it." So it was kind of broadcast around the world at this point,
right,
I think.
Nice.
But so as it was getting more and more famous, he started to get naturalists of the era, or I think naturalists. Are we naturalists? What's it called?
Naturalists.
What's the word for like people who'd identify like animals and shit?
Yeah, like a naturalist, I guess.
Yeah, like people would say that's a panda, that's a shrew, that's a dog.
Well, yeah.
Whatever they are.
Sure.
Those kind of identification people.
Yeah.
Zoologists.
Sounds like a zoologist.
Yeah, maybe he started to get zoologists. People
Experts in the field.
Experts in the field of natural phenomena to have a look at it. Some of them were like, I don't know what the fuck this is, but like, get it away. Some of them were like, this is a hoax, it's fraudulent. And other ones were like, we think this is a real deal. Usually the really shoddy zoologists were like, this is the real deal. But anyway, he decided to run a fake headline in the papers saying that the one of the real deal zoologists had said that it was 100% a real mermaid and was proof of like mermaids being everywhere. So this was huge.
I imagine this as a small thing.
It's small, yeah. It's kind of like the size of like a baby.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got like the shriveled sort of blue head of a reclining ape that kind of looks like it's died in agony.
Right.
With the lower bottom of like a blue salmon.
Okay.
But like way more from the early. All we have of it is illustrations of the original one, done at the era from inside the little cafe, and they are grotesque. It looks really really horrible. But anyway, So after he printed this thing about the naturalists, it totally like it got all these lawsuits. People didn't believe him, and he couldn't kind of parade his hoax around. And that's when he discovered that he didn't actually own the boat that he'd just given to those Japanese people.
Oh, no.
So he gives it to his son, and he's like, you look after the mermaid, son. Like, I'm going to have to go away and work for like 20 years to make back the money for this boat that I sold. Yeah. So his son grows up with this prized possession, this shriveled little mermaid, and nothing much else in London. And eventually gets a knock on the door one day, about 20 years later, from a kind of shadowy American businessman who offers him a shit ton of money for the mermaid, and the son is like, have it. So this little mermaid goes all the way to America, and suddenly it's being given to P.T. Barnum, who's like, that movie they made with like Hugh Jackman as like the greatest showman on earth, the hugest actman of all time as well. And so he's like this freak show owner / like curiosity guy, and he starts parading it around and releasing fake articles in the newspapers saying that it's really been found. It's just recently been found off the shore of the Fiji. And he's creating fake characters. There's a guy called what was his name? Levi Lyman, who took on a fake character called like Mr. Griffin or something, who was going around like pretending, taking it to shadowy hotel rooms and showing it to gentlemen in like corners, so that it would create this kind of like this legendary status around it. And eventually he managed to. It's a far better story than I'm making it out.
That's what we should do with our episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've a much better reality than they actually are. But eventually shit got too hot. I think it got really. There was all these elaborate ploys to get it more and more famous, and like get its way into actual official museums and things. And I think P.T. Barnum had to like give it to a cousin of his that then was almost getting like burned to death by these like villagers and priests that wanted to burn the mermaid. They wanted to burn the mermaid, and like P.T. Barnum was like, fuck, so ended up giving it back. And that was, that's kind of where the story ends. But the original mermaid ended up burning in a mysterious fire as well. So no one knows what happened to it. But by that point, it was already such a huge phenomenon that there were like millions of replicas, not millions, but thousands of replicas all over the world claiming to be the original Fiji mermaid, and there still is to this day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I think what's interesting at the time, there are several things about it, that it was still at a point when people were still really discovering animals.
Yeah.
Like we discover like the odd variation now, don't we?
Yeah, like a gnat.
Yeah, or someone will go in a cave and they'll be like, holy shit, that's like an albino alligator, or that's like a rare kind of lizard or something. But we were actually discovering like new, like, I've never seen a peacock before. What the fuck is that thing with the blue feathers coming out of its ass? You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so it was quite a big deal.
Isn't it? Don't you think it's interesting how, like, to me, like, the idea of a mythical creature like a mermaid or something like that would be, like now, of course, we've got, Disney's Little Mermaid, but just generally, like, the idea of a mermaid, if you were to ask sort of anyone what they imagine a mermaid would be like, it would probably be like more along the lines of like a siren, something that's beautiful, but also a fish. Yeah. So, like, not sexually beautiful, but like, look at this beautiful half like human, half fish.
Yeah.
Look at its elegance. Look how it moves. Look at it has soft skin and brilliant scales.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic and swims at like with agility and prowess.
Yeah.
But like the realities of any kind of like real, like the actual real version of that, would be like a 3-foot sort of grim, like bizarre little creature that is actually more like a totally fucked up fish.
And exactly.
not human at all. So in these illustrations, does it have arms?
Well, interestingly, in the illustrations of the actual mermaid itself, it's like got these horribly bent, anguish kind of arms of its torso, but also
which could be like bones that would be maybe like wings.
It also had breasts as well, like drooping kind of half breasts that come down in the middle of its scales.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be like too strange for an animal that's gone extinct to like feed like its young.
Yeah, to feed its young. Although interestingly enough, say that again. In the adverts to try to get people down to the Boston Museum to see it, they just printed classic Little Mermaid, beautiful young lady images of like the classic, like, come and see the mermaid.
Even then, people would assume. So that's what I'm finding interesting. Because I would have thought that maybe back then in the 1900s, I guess.
1820.
Yeah. Like people would have like assumed that it would be grim, but that's not the case. Like people were like, no, mermaids are these siren-esque figures. It's like that with everything. Like, anything you can think of that's mythological, like a pixie or something like that, it's like, I think that we do a lot of like attaching this beauty to it. It's got to be like,
It's
Oh yeah, we
mythical,
assume
but
it's
beautiful.
that's so classic with fairies. Everyone,
beautiful.
you
little
like Peter
things.
Pan, kind of beautiful little things. But actually, no. People in the past, fairies were fucking horrible. These weird little goblin things,
Right? Yeah, like tiny, ugly little fuckers.
and they can like stab you, and they can replace your children with other people and changelings.
Yeah, like
and they
dangerous little things. Whereas
Yeah.
nowadays fairies are like one and the same of a secret garden of like wonder and beauty with like the gorgeous roses.
And that was already the case by like Arthur Conan Doyle's era, when the little girls were hiding fake paper fairies in the garden, taking pictures as if they were real.
Yeah.
Another classic hoax.
We have the Piskies right here in Cornwall.
Oh yeah,
right.
they're mine based.
Something to do with the mines.
And then like knockers or something. They make
Knockers as well. I think that's different. They might be
separate.
different. They might be the same.
So what do the Piskies do?
I don't know. The way I think about them is they're exactly like pixies, but you say it's slightly different.
Yeah.
So
but
I don't know.
With the knockers, it's a spooky one. It's at the deep in the mines, right? Round here, that you'd hear that people would hear this rhythmic knocking, right? And they knew that it was these little creatures. But was it a warning, perhaps, to get out at certain points, or were they just causing mischief? I can't remember. Something ominous about it.
I don't know. There's something fantastic about it. But
frightening.
I bet they're not. I bet how you would have thought about them was terrified.
Yeah.
About these knockers.
Oh yeah, they're not like these little cuddly knockers.
Yeah.
Definitely something has happened as time has moved on with all mythology. If you think about that.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
We've what's the word? We've like cutified it. We've made it cute.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything's now become like they all of these old mythological sort of pure terrors have now become real, like sort of like wondrous thoughts.
Even the classic sort of a monotheistic god wants this like all powerful faceless being that could crush and smite, and made men like kill children to prove, and like had animals sacrificed in his name. Now it's like God in the sky.
Yeah, it's like,
hey, don't worry
Buddy
about
Jesus.
it. Yeah, exactly. Completely like Buddy Christ. Yeah, that's so true. Everything has been... as time has moved on, it's as if as a species, despite witnessing some really fucked up things as time has moved on.
As quite, as very, like, atrocities are constantly occurring.
It's almost like
we're still going like,
we're trying to bury our heads. Yeah.
Like, if that was happening to a friend of yours, if one friend of yours just kept sort of like bringing up like concepts that were terrifying and being like, no, it's they're actually like really nice, you'd be like, dude, it's not nice.
No,
like,
yeah. You're like, oh, what?
It's a goblin
You're
that
like, what?
swims.
You mean the eight-eyed lizard man that lives at the back of my garden? He's a nice guy. Yeah. I'd be like, dude, there's a fucking lizard man. He lives down the back of your garden. That's not cool. Like, don't feed him babies anymore. That's cool. He's great.
It's nice. Everything's cool. It's fine. It's like, classic head in the sand.
Yeah, classic. Yeah. And I think maybe, and also a way of us kind of whitewashing the past a little bit, kind of trying to make it look more idyllic and less spooky. The reality was we lived like in the dirt among the stones.
Yeah.
Not understanding much about science, not knowing much about like why the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I fucking know why the moon rises and the sun sets, but some people do.
I know that we know
comforts me.
that we just found out recently that the moon is like a few billion years older than we
is
thought.
it? Oh fuck.
Apparently,
now we have to sacrifice things to it, right?
Apparently, we sacrifice ourselves. But like, apparently, it got there because an asteroid hit Earth and a bit of rock came off. And I was like,
I feel like I heard that. But I also heard one classically about the moon creating the ocean by hitting into the water or something of the Earth.
It's like insane.
Well, I think that
I
is.
I watch too much New Scientist, and New Scientist now is not like. It feels like Mad Scientist. It's like it doesn't feel like anyway.
I just feel like I'm too stupid to understand this Milky Moon ocean. I think the moon making the oceans thing is a real thing.
It made the ocean.
I don't know. I'm going to get back to mermaids because I do know about mermaids.
Okay.
There's one more funny story about mermaids and freak shows that I got, which was I think years after the mermaid was exhibited, there was another curiosity exhibition that they had about mermaids, the sort of next most famous one. And what it was is you'd walk into this room and you would see a fish tank. It was like a big fish tank with fish swimming around it, but projected inside through an elaborate series of mirrors, you would see an actual swimming mermaid. And people were astounded by this, and it was like a best-selling thing to see this ethereal mermaid swimming around, never coming up for air, just constantly swimming in a time before projection or television or anything like that. Pretty astounding stuff. Until one day, a guy walked into the tent to see the mermaid, sort of dreamily looking at her. She just lit a cigarette, started smoking it. And he became so enraged and pissed off that the illusion had been shattered, much like the Japanese tourist seeing Paris for the first time, that he stormed out of the tent. And he went to the man, got him by the scruff of the neck. The guy who was like, running the little circus show, going, "If she's really underwater, why is she smoking a cigarette?" And the guy was like, "I can't really explain." Yeah.
That's beautiful.
On that powerful note.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to tell you about Creepy Crawly since it's Halloween. Earlier today, a doctor found there was a woman that couldn't sleep for a few days. She had like weird little ear, and she was like, what's going on?
She just has an abnormally small ear.
No, no, she doesn't have a tiny little ear. Her ear was acting weirdly, but just strangely, it was like kind of clicking and cracking, and she was like, "What the fuck's wrong with my ear?" She just couldn't sleep for a few days. It was kind of doing her head in, but not like massive. It wasn't emergency, clearly, because it took a few days. She went to the doctor and was like, "Something's going on with my ear." He had a little look in there, and he found a tiny spider in there.
Just a tiny one?
Tiny spider, probably about 2 millimeters.
Oh, wow.
And it had climbed in, couldn't get out. It had shed its exoskeleton and was just trying to get out. Oh. And just clacking around.
Did it have a web inside there as well?
No web in there. It was just trying to get out. It was just clicking and clacking around in her ear, right? And so they removed it very easily.
Yeah.
And it turns out that like if you're like an ear sort of specialist,
yeah.
if that's what you do as a career, the chances are quite high that throughout your career you'll at least see that probably about 10 times.
Oh, God.
So they're out there.
I thought
they're out there and they're coming for your ears.
Fuck it. I thought what you were going to say is and then a year passes and then she realises she's got all of the eggs and bursting. All the fucking spiders coming out everywhere.
Well,
well, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, dude. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh. Should we do the song?
Let's do the song. Ever